Hi, my name is Melissa P. Dunn, and I am happy to be here participating in the South Florida Fertility Expo web series. This is a good thing. Being a part of this Fertility Expo web series is really important to me. It's important to me really for two reasons. Number one, because I think that women need to hear each other's stories. And number two, because it's given me the opportunity to share my story, and it's in the sharing of the story that you discover truths that you're probably even a little bit afraid to acknowledge. In 2003, April 28th to be exact, the same date that we're shooting, I gave birth to a child. His name was Uriel Isra Wisdom. He was born 28 weeks premature. I was diagnosed with uterine fibroids when I went to the doctor to find out if I was pregnant or not. Did a pelvic exam and discovered my fibroids. My son was in utero for 28 weeks. 15 of those weeks I spent in the hospital. A lot of fear, a lot of prayer. At the time, my then husband lived in Jamaica, so I was by myself. I was alone and pregnant and in the hospital. Very traumatic, but I knew that I loved this child. I knew that he was a gift to me from God. And when I went into premature labor, I actually had a dream about it before it happened. And I prayed. And luckily for me, I had the kind of doctor who was also Caribbean. So when I go to him and I said to him, "Doc, I had a dream," he understood and respected me enough culturally to say, "All right, let's do some tests." And he did. And it was discovered that my cervix was weak. And by that time, I was already 10 weeks past. The baby was growing, the fibroids were growing, and my cervix wasn't strong enough to maintain it. So my doctor did give us the injection for me to allow my baby's lungs to develop quicker. So when he was born at 28 weeks, this kid was breathing on his own. They only had to put a CPAP, which is like a nasal cannula, on him. He didn't have to be intubated at all. I mean, at 28 weeks, who does that, right? But Uriel was strong. He was a fighter. And so I lived in a town in New Jersey called Irvington. He was in a town called Hackensack. And for those of you who live in the New York metro area, you know nobody has a car, right? So here I am, just gave birth to this child, and through C-section, so you can imagine the discomfort and the pain, and I'm taking a bus every day from Hackensack to Irvington because I need to be there. And so for 31 days, I had the pleasure and the opportunity to be the best mom to this child. During the 31 days, I had a chance to hold him. I had a chance to feed him. Halfway through, he went into distress at some point, and they had to intubate him. But other than that, he was breathing on his own. And even then, the boy pulled out the tubes. So I used to call him my little lion. And so I had the opportunity to be his mom. And on May 31st, I got a call. I would spend the day at the hospital, and I'd take the bus back to Irvington. And on the 31st of May, I got the call that he was in distress, and he passed away. So I took the bus from Irvington to Hackensack, and at that time, my husband was flying in from Jamaica. So the first time he met his son, he met a child that was dead. That was his fault, obviously. He's, man is supposed to do what he's supposed to do. But as a woman, you disregard all of that, and you do what you need to do for yourself and for your family. I was devastated, but I also felt blessed by the opportunity to have him for 31 days. The doctor advised us to get pregnant again soon, and so we did. And this child, I knew, again through my dreams, that it was a girl. So I named her Maya, after Maya Angelou. Turned out that pregnancy was ectopic. The fibroids were still there. So now, add to the complications of having an ectopic pregnancy. And how did I find out about the ectopic? We went in for our first ultrasound. And I remember sitting there in the doctor's chair, and you know, the technologist is doing the ultrasound. And you know, at a certain point when they get quiet, you know they're seeing something, but they're not really authorized to tell you what they're seeing. And she's like, oh, let's wait for the doctor to come in. But I'm in healthcare. I know what it means when she's not speaking. She came in and the doctor told us that it was ectopic. They admitted me in the hospital right away. And the doctor said to me, you have a choice. We can give you an injection for you to have a miscarriage, or we can do a surgery and remove your tubes. In my mind, you need a fallopian tube in order to get pregnant again. And so I told them, let's induce a miscarriage. So they gave me the injection, and I went home and I passed the fetus out. So I could see it, I could see her. I passed it out. So in the matter of 6 months, I lost 2 babies. But I kept the fibroids. I was in so much pain after that. The only thing that kept me alive was my work. At the time, I worked at the American Cancer Society, and I ran a breast health partnership program that literally was saving thousands of women's lives. So the ability to throw myself into serving is what kept me alive. But what my friends don't know, what my colleagues don't know, is that I would be at work and I would lead my team and I would be strong and I would be productive. But then when I got home at night, I spent hours sleeping on the floor. I couldn't even sleep in my bed because I didn't think that I was worthy of being in a bed. So I slept on the floor. And I remember my now ex-husband, I mean, he passed away, but my husband was in the house. And I remember calling my best friend, Enzo. And I said, Enzo, I need to get out of here, because if I stay here, I'm going to stab this man. That's how angry I was. And then, being the good friend that I've been blessed with, he said, go to the airport. And I went to the airport, got on a flight, and came to Miami. And we called another friend of mine, Rachel, who has since passed away. And I spent almost 2 months in Haiti, sleeping under a tree, being cared for, being allowed to cry, being allowed to mourn, not 1, but 2 babies, and being allowed to let my anger go. My anger at myself for choosing a man that didn't choose me. My anger at fibroids, my anger at my body betraying me, my anger at my body not being able to sustain a child. For 2 months. When I came back to New York, I was strong enough, and now I started to sleep in my own bed, and I threw myself into work. I threw myself into service. And I did that for years. 4 years. Moved to Miami. This is 2003. Moved to Miami, again, throwing myself into work, started working at the Circle. And then in 2009, I got to the point where I could function well for months out of the year, but from April, the month of April, well, from mid-March, like March 15th to June 1st, I was a wreck. I was a wreck. So I could be the strong woman that doesn't allow anything to stop. I'm on top of it. I'm doing what I'm, but from mid-March to mid-June, I couldn't. And it finally, all that stuffing it down, finally caught up with me until I found myself with a mini stroke in Mount Sinai Hospital. And that was in June 2006. No, that couldn't have been. I don't remember when it was.
9 or 10.
2009 or 10. Mini stroke.
Oh my God, that happened in November?
Mini stroke because of all the stress and all of the stuffing down. Mind you, I wasn't even paying attention to the fact that I had fibroids because I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't think about anything as it relates to this. I was living in the world from here and literally bootstrapping my way through life. After I ended up in the hospital with a mini stroke, it became clear to me that I needed help. Denying grief, denying the root cause of my grief, which are the fibroids, was killing me. So I changed everything in my life. Now, mind you, in between all of this, I ended up choosing another man who didn't choose me because I was so caught up in my grief, and being in that relationship gave me respite from my grief. If that makes any sense, right? It allowed me a place to escape because now that I'm obsessing about this dude who wasn't serving me, I wasn't grieving about losing my babies. I didn't have to acknowledge my fibroids. I didn't have to acknowledge my true feeling, which is that my body was betraying me. So by 2010, I decided, forget all of it, no more denial. Divorced the husband, moved out of the apartment, quit my job, went back to school to get my healthcare MBA, started over. And literally in July of 2012, all of it caught up with me. I tried to kill myself. Found myself again in the hospital. And when I came out of it, I decided, I made a choice. No more stuffing down pain. No more living in denial. No more blaming your body for what you believe it can or cannot do. It just is. It just is. And I decided that I love myself enough to live fully and completely. And I decided that I can't ask God for a baby. I can't ask God to give me a child to love if I can't love His child, which is me. So July 23rd, 2011 was the beginning of my second chapter. And the beginning of really me healing. Because I think, they talk about the grief process, and I was stuck. They say it's a five-part process, and I was stuck on anger. I was stuck on anger for years. Well, July 2011, I got past that and finally made it to acceptance. But it was a road, a cycle. And so for me, that meant just acknowledging that I'm here and I deserve to be here. Losing a child doesn't make me less than. Having fibroids doesn't make me less than. What it does is it gives me an opportunity to take better care of myself. And that's what I've been doing. I have learned through this journey that words are powerful. As a young woman, you know, especially growing up in Jamaica, you hear all of these things about black girls getting pregnant before their time. And so I spent a lot of years saying, no, I'm not going to get pregnant. I don't want to get pregnant. I'll never get pregnant. In fact, I deliberately waited to have sex until I was in my early 20s just to ensure that I would never get pregnant. Words are powerful. So as young women, when we keep saying, I don't want to have a baby, I don't want to have a baby, and then now you're 40 and you're like, you're surprised now that it's hard for you to have a baby because you've been telling the universe that you don't want a kid. So the first thing that I had to do was change my words. And it's a process. And it's one that I have been working on continuously because I know that God listens to me. I know that what I ask for, I get. It's just a matter of when I allow it to come into my life. Now, it may well be that I'll never have a biological child. I still have fibroids. I still struggle. But if that's the case, that's okay with me now because guess what? There's so many children out there that I can love. And I don't have to physically give birth to a child in order to give that love. So I hope, I wish that the right gentleman would come into my life. I hope and I wish that my body, now that I know that I have a weak cervix, and now that I know, having gone through Uriel and Maya, now I know what to do if and when I get pregnant again. You know, maybe that will be an opportunity. I would like for it to be an opportunity, but it's okay if it's not. You know why? Because God loves me, whether I have a baby or not. Because I'm a mother. I gave birth to one child. I carried 2 children. I'm a mom. That will never change. That will never change. And so where I am now in my fertility process is loving me, taking care of my body. I am about to start doing some Eastern medicine. I have heard women say that acupuncture and different Chinese medicine help with decreasing fibroids and improving energy and strengthening the uterus. And so I'm going to be trying that next. I found for me, going to the doctors all the time and obsessing and doing all of that, it doesn't serve me because it just keeps me in a state of fear. And so I have made the decision that I'm just not going to go back. Right now, I just need to feel better. I need to strengthen my uterus. I need to shrink the fibroids. And then after that, we see what happens. I'm taking it one step at a time. I'm taking it one step at a time. And guess what? That's okay for me. So if I had to encourage women, the one thing that I would say is stay connected. Stay connected. Stay connected to the core of who you are. And just understand that you are loved. You are loved. And by reveling in that love, no matter what's happening with your body, that's preparing you to give the love. It's preparing you. And I have this dream of building the Uriel Center for Children and Families in Jamaica. It's a dream right now. it's a place where families and children can grow and bloom. And I don't know how it's going to happen, and I don't care. I know that it will. And for me, that will be one way that I will ensure that the blessing of being that child's mother will continue to maybe help thousands of other children and thousands of other families have the kind of life that my son didn't get a chance to live. He would have been 15 years old today. Can you imagine? 15. So I'm done. I'm done with fear. I'm done with hurt. I'm done with all of that stuff. Right now, it's about joy. I'm happy where I am and excited about where I'm going.